It was the summer of 2024, and my three buddies, Jake, Sam, and Marcus, and I were desperate for a break from our internship at the Kennedy Space Center. We'd been buried in rocket data for weeks, but as star geeks, we craved a night under a pristine sky. We pored over light pollution maps and Google Maps, zeroing in on a remote clearing deep in Tate's Hell State Forest, a swampy, desolate stretch of Florida's panhandle. The name came from an old legend about Tate, a settler who vanished in the swamp in the 1800s, supposedly cursed. We brushed it off. Ghost stories were for kids. We just wanted stars. Our safe haven was an Airbnb, a cozy cabin near Apalachicola, about 30 miles from the forest's edge. After work that Friday, we piled into my Tesla Model Y and Marcus Mustang, loaded with blankets, snacks, and a telescope. No camping gear since we'd be sleeping back at the cabin. The 7-hour drive from the Space Center was grueling, and we hit the Airbnb late, dropping our bags and grabbing a quick snack before heading back out again. The final stretch into Tate's Hell was brutal. Narrow dirt trails twisting through dense pines and murky wetlands, the air thick with cicadas, and the occasional splash of something in the water. With no cell service, we used walkie-talkies to stay connected between cars, the crackles cutting through the dark. Around 2 a.m., we reached the clearing, tired and buzzing. The sky was unreal. The stars were blazing like they were close enough to grab. We spread out blankets, set up the telescope, and dove in. 15 minutes later, Sam's voice hissed over the walkie-talkie from the Mustang. "Yo, you see those headlights?" My gut twisted. We turned, and a faint glow crept along the trail we had driven in on, 40 meters from the nearest town at 2 a.m. in a massive forest. Nobody's just passing by. Whoever was out there was trouble. Jake, in the Tesla with me, grabbed his walkie-talkie. "Flash them. See what they do." Flicked the Tesla's headlights, 3 sharp bursts. An old pickup truck, rusted and battered, stopped about 100 yards off. No honk or wave, nothing. Then we saw them, shadowy figures stepping out. 2 or 3. Hard to tell in the glare. They just stood there, staring. And that's when we heard faint voices, low and garbled, drifting through the swamp. "This is messed up," Marcus crackled over the radio. Sam sounded spooked. Those voices. Nobody's out here at 2 a.m. for anything good. I swung my flashlight, but the beam didn't reach, catching only shadows. The whispers kept going, soft and sinister, making my skin crawl. Jake tried to stay cool. "Maybe locals, but let's move," he said. Agreed over the walkie-talkies to find another spot. But we set a rule. If those lights showed up again, we were racing back to the Airbnb for safety. We turned off the main trail. Anyone following us was after us. We sped a mile down a side trail, found another clearing, and set up fast. Just blankets and nerves. 5 minutes in, Marcus' voice cut through the walkie-talkie. It sounded urgent. "They're back." My heart sank. Those same headlights sliced through the dark. Much closer now. Then came a gut punch and engine rev, like they were doing it as a threat. Sam said, "Get us out now." We scrambled into the cars, Jake and I in the Tesla, Marcus and Sam in the Mustang. I floored it, the Tesla jolting over roots and branches underneath, scraping like claws. Those headlights stuck to us, high beams blinding in my rearview mirror. Jake was on the walkie-talkie. "Marcus, you good?" Marcus replied, "Barely, they're right there." We were 40 meters from help. Just 4 young, basically defenseless interns. At 2 a.m. in a place called Tate's Hell, you don't meet good people. I pushed the Tesla to its limits, with Marcus close in the Mustang. The trail veered in one direction, and for a second, as we turned, the headlights of the truck tailing us vanished. I prayed we'd lost them. But shortly after, they were back, like they were toying with us, knowing we were trapped. We hit a fork and I swerved left, hoping it led to the main road. The truck followed. Finally, after much more panic and stress, the dirt turned to pavement, and a faded highway sign appeared ahead. I glanced back, expecting those headlights, but they were gone. Marcus's Mustang pulled up beside us, and we stopped on the shoulder, panting, just staring into the dark. All we heard in the forest now were crickets and the crackle of our walkie-talkies. The drive back to the Airbnb was dead silent. We stumbled into the cabin, locking the door, but even that safe haven felt unsafe after what we'd faced. Who were they? We considered possibilities: poachers, druggies running something shady, or something tied to the old tales of Tate's hell. At 2 a.m. in a place like that, nobody's out for a good time. The way they watched us, the way they chased us without rushing, it wasn't a prank. It felt like they wanted us to be afraid. We never went back. We don't talk about it. Not at the Space Center, not anywhere. But when I drive those lonely Florida roads at night, a part of me has permanently become more hyper-aware. In December 2023, I took a 3-week vacation to Japan. My family owns a hotel near the small mountain town of Kaga-Anzen in western Japan. It was a large Japanese inn, also known as a ryokan, built into the side of a hill next to the Dusho River. The area surrounding the hotel had been inhabited for at least 2 millennia and was considered a sacred place. My father had told me that when the hotel was being constructed, the builders found a couple of old stone blocks and pillars at the site. Apparently, there was a shrine built there around the 9th century. The last time I stayed in that hotel was over 15 years ago, so I wanted to relive the experience. I also loved exploring, so I decided to do some off-trail hiking in the forest below the hotel, hoping to find traces of the ancient ruins my father mentioned. As soon as I arrived at Kanazawa City, I rented a car and drove up to the hotel. It was snowing heavily and traffic was terrible. The ride was supposed to take about an hour, but instead took 2. I arrived around 8 p.m. and let myself in. The hotel was basically vacant in December, and tourists usually didn't go to this part of Japan in winter. There was no staff at all. I found myself being the only person in the hotel. The feeling was surreal, being alone in such a building in the middle of nowhere. I grabbed one of the keys behind the counter, let myself into a suite, and slept there for the night. The next day, I ventured into the forest below the hotel. The snow was deep, up to my ankles, and trudging through rough terrain in boots was absolute hell. I must have walked far enough to lose my sense of direction. I checked my phone, but there was no signal at all. The sky was surrounded by trees on all sides, and directly in front of me was a large hill. I thought climbing to the summit would give me a better vantage point to locate civilization. The ascent was tough, the sides of the hill steep and rocky. Off to the left, I noticed what looked like remnants of a path. I slowly traversed my way toward it. The dirt path wound up toward the summit, slightly overgrown with dead branches, but I managed to reach the top. However, the path soon disappeared. I looked around the hill and noticed a small cavity in the hillside above the path, hidden in the vegetation, maybe 5 meters away. I climbed up and found myself at the entrance to a small cave. A bit of mud had washed into the cave, but the opening was large enough for me to fit. I had a small flashlight and shone it into the opening. I could see a small alcove in front with another opening to the left. As I entered the cave, a certain smell hit me. It smelled like an animal at the zoo. The alcove in front was bare, except for a large rectangular stone block placed in the middle. As I walked deeper, I found a large stone chamber. 2 side tunnels ran from the chamber, but I didn't explore them. There was another rectangular stone block on the far side, which looked hollow. I approached it, and to my shock, saw human bones inside. Surrounding the bones were a long piece of steel and a bunch of old bronze coins, the ones with a square hole in the center. I stood there in shock and disbelief. I instinctively reached down and picked up one of the coins. Before I could examine it closely, I heard a loud crash from deep within one of the side tunnels. The animalistic scent grew stronger, making the air feel toxic. I grabbed the long steel piece amongst the bones and held it in front of me like a weapon. It looked like the remnants of a long blade. I started backing toward the entrance. The smell changed. I could smell smoke beneath the stench. I heard rhythmic thumping from deep within the tunnel, like someone banging a drum. That was the last straw. I ran out of the cave, feeling it vibrate and shake beneath me. I jumped onto the slope below and tumbled onto the snowy ground. I dropped the blade, but didn't care. I kept running down the slope, crashing through twigs and branches. I ran until I heard a car in the distance. I found myself on the side of the road, collapsed and flagged down a passing car. The driver was reluctant, but let me in after seeing my distress. I found out I was about 4 miles from the hotel. I returned, packed up, and drove back to Kanazawa to stay the night. Story has a follow-up. In February, my father texted me. Someone had broken into the hotel through a first-floor window. Surprisingly, nothing was damaged or stolen except for my room's front door, which had been smashed wide open with a blunt metal object. I don't know if it's connected to my experience, but I am definitely not staying at that hotel ever again.